just on the last couple of notes, given that you're an integral part in all of this advocacy work, I'd love to know your insight into how you think advocacy groups can be, how they can positively and also negatively affect justice.
Well, if you can, like, if you are fanatical, as we were just discussing, and you go in there and you're unreasonable and you're not ready to bend and compromise or adapt to what other people's perceptions or concerns are, you're not going to get anywhere. The only reason we've been successful is because we've been the calm ones, the ones who are easy to deal with, as opposed to the screaming fanatical abolitionists who just freak out and yell, and you know, they get these sort of reactionary enforcement actions as a result, right? If you're going to go in and try to engage the mainstream community on any issue, you have to follow the basic structure of the way those sorts of things happen, like going to the police board as a delegation, or sitting on committees, or things like that. Like, for instance, in the community over here, as a business owner, I've joined the Business Improvement Association to talk about ways to green the community, and there's no garbage cans, or the Community Policing Center's report about kids smoking marijuana over by the London Drugs. I mean, there's a lot of real issues going on in this community, but the only way you can begin to sort of take part in that or have any part of it is to start from the bottom and work your way in, learn who the players are, learn what the issues are, and then come at it from a sort of pragmatic approach. You know, don't bring emotion into it. It's hard not to, especially when it comes to sex work. I mean, I've experienced violence. I've been an addict, an intravenous drug user. People have tried to kill me, you know. It's hard not to let those personal experiences influence the way that I do my advocacy work. But there comes a point where you have to understand that you're not going to get everything you want, and that other people have legitimate concerns as well. And if you can somehow find a way to meet and agree on some things, and then you can agree to table the things you don't agree on and work on them later. At least if there are things you agree on, you can move forward a little at a time. But also to make sure that they base things on fact. I mean, if you rely on junk science, it will inevitably be shown to be junk science. If you inflate numbers, people will see through it, and then your credibility is blown. If you can stick as much as possible to what you really do know or what you don't know and be honest about it, I think that goes a lot further in terms of mainstream systems reforms, you know. That's how we've had success with it anyway, for sure. In terms of negatively, I mean, I've seen workers lose it, and cursing and swearing, and our language has evolved totally differently from mainstream language. Criminalization has sort of created two communities in Canada, underground and overground, right? Or mainstream. Different things are rude in my world, you know, different sort of things are considered disrespectful, or, you know, if there's some things that you just don't do, you know, which mainstream community members wouldn't understand, right? So I think it's always important, whatever you're advocating for, to ensure that you place the voices of the people who are affected at the forefront. An example, over the weekend we hosted this conference here with workers from all over Canada, and one of the things that came up as a priority was youth who were engaging in sex work, and the fact that that was a huge concern for mainstream society, and how were we going to deal with it. And my statement was that there were no youth at the conference, that I wasn't comfortable dictating or, you know, talking about youth without them present. And so I thought the best idea was for us to think of how we can engage youth or make it safe for them to bring their voice to the table, and how can we ensure that their experiences are the ones that guide any actions that will affect them. And plain and simple, for anything, you know what I mean? If you want to fight for the rights of people impacted by the pipeline, you know, you need to go and speak to them and see what the impacts were. Do they want the pipeline? Did they get a whole bunch of money for it? Does it seem to be safer than actually transporting the crude by trucks or rail? You know, I mean, to think about it, and not just think about it from the perspective of somebody who's not impacted, right? So yes, we're all impacted by pipelines, but who's really impacted and who's the real expert, you know? And to try to follow those facts as closely as you can, and to be calm above all. You can't go in screaming and yelling because people just shut down, they won't hear you. You know, the police don't have to talk to us. They don't have to. There's no public accountability. The reason that they chose to work with us was because we were calm and rational, and so slowly gained their trust that it wouldn't be some big blow up police bashing meeting if they came and met with us, and it seems to be working slowly but surely, right?
Great. Well, to be honest, that was kind of answered my last question. I was just going to ask what you thought the best way to achieve justice was, and I think that speaks really true to that.
Yeah.
That one quote you had of making sure that the voices. Of,
yeah.
That is the most important.
For us, it has to be about mainstream society supporting labor law and human rights law for sex workers, and allowing us to organize, as is our human right, trade unions, and to fight for the stability of our community. You know, it's one thing for a former worker who experienced exploitation to share her experiences, but she will not be affected by any changes that come down the pipe, and so then falls into the category of ideology. We can't allow those narrow experiences to define what happens. You know, we have to make sure that everyone's perspective is included, and that it's not viewed as a women's issue. Because while the majority of sex workers may be women, there are men and trans individuals who are involved in the industry, as well as there's all these sort of sub-jobs like booking girl, or a security driver, or a bouncer in the strip club, or waitress, or a film guy, you know, or the cook. The cook at the Cecil worked there for 30 years, and when it closed, she couldn't get another job. What's she supposed to do? Nobody thought about the impact of all these other staff members within the industry, right? We just have to start viewing it as a workers' issue and allow the workers to do what is their right to do and organize.
Great.
Cool, man.
That was awesome. Thank you so much
No
for
problem.
taking the time.
No problemo.